Michael Evancheck.
For all those who wish to pray, I invite you to join me as we direct these words to God. Good, great, and sovereign Lord, we come now and direct these words from our mouths and the meditations of our hearts to you. We thank you for the blessings of life, health, community, and ordered governance in our common life. We thank you for all those gathered here to conduct the people's business for the city of Taylorville. We thank you for the answered call to service, evidenced in the lives of our elected city leaders. May your wisdom, justice, righteousness, and peace guide them not only in their personal lives, but especially tonight in the discharge of their civic duties. We further thank you for the abundant blessings you've given upon the people of our community, the people on whose behalf our city council serves. May they be blessed not only in the work done tonight on their behalf in this council meeting, but also be blessed by you. We humbly acknowledge tonight the challenging, difficult, and anxious time we find ourselves in as a city, state, nation, and even as part of the global community. As challenging as the past days have been in response to the COVID-19 outbreak, we know that many more difficult days lie ahead. May a sense of your peace, calm, your patience, and most especially your love pervade in the hearts of all, and may our council be a sign and a light of working together for the common good. Help us to focus on loving you, loving each other, and may we do all we can to keep ourselves and everyone else safe. With all our efforts and your guidance, we know that you will see us through this crisis. This we pray tonight to you, our Lord and our God. Amen.
Amen.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
roll call.
Maggie Bryant.
Here.
Larry Bud.
Here.
John Bruno. Bernie Dorchenez.
Here.
Kathy Driscoll.
Here.
Lee Landzadi.
Here.
Jim Olive.
Here.
Crystal Petty.
Here.
All aldermen are present. Youth of the month. We've suspended youth of the month and volunteer of the month due to the coronavirus, so we'll pick that up once we're safe and gathering crowds bigger than what is gathered here tonight. Omnibus vote designation.
So moved.
Motion approved by Alderman Dorchenez, second by Alderman Bryant. Roll call.
Larry Bud.
Yes.
John Bruno.
Yes.
Bernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Kathy Driscoll.
Yes.
Lee Landzadi.
Yes.
Jim Olive.
Yes.
Crystal Petty.
Yes.
Megan Bryant.
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0. Minutes of the regular meeting held March 2nd, 2020. Minutes of the Personnel Committee meeting held March 5th, 2020. Minutes of the Emergency Service Committee meeting held March 5th, 2020. Minutes of the Lake and Airport Committee meeting held March 12th, 2020. And minutes of the Water Environmental Committee meeting held March 12th, 2020. Motion to approve all of these. Motion by Alderman Skoltedi, second by Alderman Driscoll. Roll call.
John Bruno.
Yes.
Bernie
Yes.
Dorchenez. Kathy Driscoll.
Yes.
Lee Landzadi. Jim Olive.
Yes.
Crystal Petty.
Yes.
Megan Bryant.
Yes.
Larry Bud.
Motion carries 8-0. Planning Commission recommendation. Mr. Kretzer?
Mr. Mayor, on the West School Minor Subdivision, the Planning Commission recommends location map on vote 4-0, motion carried. On the final plat of West School Minor Subdivision, with the stipulation that curbs and gutters and sidewalks be part of the subdivision. Motion recommends was 4-0 in favor.
Thank you for your work, Mr. Kretzer. An ordinance amending the zoning classification of certain property.
I think you need to take a motion on the recommendation.
Oh, take motion on the
Take first
recommendation.
on location map.
Motion on the planning commission on the
Location map.
location map. Motion by Alderman Bud,
Second.
second by Alderman Olive. Roll call.
Bernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Kathy Driscoll.
Yes.
Lee Landzadi.
Yes.
Jim Olive.
Yes.
Crystal Petty.
Yes.
Megan Bryant.
Yes.
Larry Bud.
Yes.
John Bruno.
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0. Now we need a motion on the
Final plat.
Final
As
plat.
recommended, subject to the
As
sidewalk. and
recommended by the
curbs and
planning
gutter
commission
requirement.
with curbs and gutters and sidewalks.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Alderman Olive,
Second.
second by Alderman Bryant. Roll call.
Kathy Driscoll.
Yes.
Lee Landzadi.
Yes.
Jim Olive.
Yes.
Driscoll Teddy.
Yes.
Megan Bryant.
Yes.
Larry Bud.
Yes.
Sean Burdell.
Yes.
Bernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0. Now, an ordinance amending the zoning classification of certain property. West School Investments LLC property, 8.75 acres to C1.
Mr. Mayor, if I can direct everyone's attention to section 2 of that ordinance on page 2. This ordinance, if you adopt it tonight, actually will not be effective to actually change the zoning classification until three things occur. Number one, that you actually approve the final plat, which you've just done, and the city clerk gets a receipt of the recorded warranty deed that we're requiring for the passage of that, of Silver Street to the city, and a title insurance policy at the expense of of West School. And then finally, the completion of the construction of the privacy fence that they've agreed to, subject to the approval of the mayor. And the mayor does vote, and it'll take a 6-3 vote to pass, 2/3 majority.
Question, Alderman Bud?
What about the Poplar Street, is that involved in this one now?
I'm sorry, I said it's Poplar Street extended from Silver Street. That's in section 1 on page 3.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you for pointing that out, Mr. Bud, in front of everybody. I appreciate it.
Do we have a motion?
No.
We need a motion to approve the ordinance.
So moved.
Motion by Alderman Bryant, second. Alderman Skoltedi, or excuse me, Alderman Bertle, you guys look alike. Roll call.
Lee Landzadi.
Yes.
Jim Olive.
Yes.
Driscoll Teddy.
Yes.
Megan Bryant.
Yes.
Larry Bud.
Yes.
Sean Burdell.
Yes.
Bernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Kathy Driscoll.
Yes.
Mayor
Mayor.
Perry.
Yes, motion carries 9-0. An ordinance amending paragraph B of section 4-1-15 of chapter 1 of title 4 of the Taylorville City Code, ambulance service fees. Motion by Alderman Skoltedi,
Second.
second by Alderman Bryant. Questions or comments? Roll call.
Jim Olive.
Yes.
Driscoll Teddy.
Yes.
Megan Bryant.
Yes.
Larry Bud.
Yes.
Sean Burdell.
Yes.
Bernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Kathy Driscoll.
Yes.
Lee Landzadi.
Yes.
Motion, Mayor Barry votes yes. Motion carries 9-0. An ordinance amending paragraph A of section 4-9-3 and deleting section 4-9-6 of chapter 9 of title 4 of the Taylorville City Code, the NFPA pamphlet number 50/2020 edition.
Mr. Mayor, the fire chief has pointed out to me that that pamphlet number is 58. It is correctly stated in section 1 of the ordinance, but it was referred to as 50 before. That was the old number, the prior edition.
Pamphlet number 58. Motion, Alderman Bud,
Second.
second Alderman Olive. Questions or comments? Roll call.
Driscoll Teddy.
Yes.
Megan Bryant.
Yes.
Larry Bud.
Yes.
Sean Burdell.
Yes.
Bernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Kathy Driscoll.
Yes.
Lee Landzadi.
Yes.
Jim Olive.
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0. An ordinance amending section 3-3-5 of chapter 3 of title 3 of the Taylorville City Code. Initial liquor license application fee, double the annual license fee. This was inadvertently left out of the motion when we raised the liquor license fees, and so we want to keep this in there where the first time they apply for the liquor license, they have to pay double the fees.
And that code provision was initially put in back in 2003. You just, for whatever reason, didn't pass the new one. We'll take it out.
Motion,
Oh, I did.
Alderman Bertle, second Alderman Driscoll. Questions or comments? Roll call.
Megan Bryant.
Yes.
Larry Bud.
Yes.
Sean Burdell.
Yes.
Bernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Kathy Driscoll.
Yes.
Lee Landzadi.
Yes.
Jim Olive.
Yes.
Driscoll Teddy.
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0. Resolution of sort applying for the Community Development Block Grant. That's what we discussed at the public hearing tonight, and I think we already passed that, correct?
No.
But we need to
You
make
need
a
to
motion
do
to apply for the community development block grant. So need a motion, Alderman Bud, second by
Second.
Alderman Bryant. Any questions or comments? Roll call.
Larry Bud,
Yes.
Sean Burdell.
Yes.
Bernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Kathy Driscoll. Yes. Leland Roddy.
Yes.
Jim Mullins.
Yes.
Christopher Tenney.
Yes.
Megan Bryan. Yes.
Motion carries 8-0. Motion to bid and/or advertise heavy equipment operator to cemetery department to be filled upon completion of 30-day probationary period of vacancy. That's where Mr. Ortman bid on a job at the lake, so left his job at the cemetery open. Motion by Alderman Bertle,
Second.
second by Alderman Bryan. Questions or comments? Comment, Alderman Bud?
Tonight I handed out a sheet to everybody. I don't know if anybody's looked at it yet or not, but we will be, this will come up Thursday night at my committee meeting. Starting June, the effects of what's going to happen tomorrow, come June, the city will start seeing less revenue. With the restaurants, bars, and everything being closed, there won't be a sales tax generated. There won't be any gaming money for the next 2 weeks. And we need to look at what we're going to be doing here and getting ourselves prepared for what's going to happen in June. Most of our revenue that we receive, it's generally 3 months behind. So 3 months from now, this will start happening in the city. And if you look at it, I've said put a freeze on spending, freeze on hiring. I know these jobs are important, but our payroll is $190,000 to $200,000 every 2 weeks. And if our revenue doesn't start coming in, we're not going to have revenue to be taking care of all of our expenses. So somebody needs to look at this and say, we need to slow down until we see what's going to happen with this, because this is going to get worse before it gets better. Not that I don't think these jobs need to be filled, but I will be voting no tonight because being finance, it's my job to be able to try to cut expenses when we know this is coming.
Any other comments or questions, Alderman Hall?
Just a question more than anything else. You were going to talk to the Department of Corrections, will we be able to get prisoners? And we talked about possibly using some of them at the
I believe
cemetery
so. Right now, they're working at the lake. When the last talk with the warden out there, he thought he'd be able to give us 4 people for this spring. I don't know with this coronavirus if that's going to affect that at all either. So I'll talk with him this weekend, but I can make that phone call tomorrow. The problem is a heavy equipment operator there is needed. Do we have just one other one there, Mr. Newberry?
We have a working foreman, and I'm short one guy already. Now I'm short 2. And if you guys want to take care of the cemetery, we need at least one more guy.
And I'm just asking, does he need to be a heavy equipment operator, or
Yes.
could he be a laborer?
Yeah, he has to be able to dig graves and stuff like that when Mike Tennant isn't there.
And that's where our temporary employees cannot run the equipment, right? They're just
No,
running-
I use them strictly for weed eating and mowing and cleanup and stuff like that. I mean, need it.
Alderman Driscoll?
Is there going to be any kind of, have you heard of any kind of federal assistance for these types of situations to help out communities that are?
Well, I believe in some bill that maybe passed through the House on Friday, there's $500 billion set aside for this coronavirus. And so how that will be distributed, I don't know, in the states also. So in talks with our meetings yesterday with the EMA directors and stuff, we think that a lot of these costs will be reimbursed, but without knowing, that's why the meeting we had today with the superintendents and the chiefs, I emphasize that they track every expenditure so if we do able to get reimbursed. But the question is, we don't know if this is going to go on for 2 weeks, 6 months, 2 years, or whatever. So they can promise you all the money, but I guarantee it, if it runs 6 months, every municipality in every state is going to be hurting financially. So that's one of the things. Is this a needed position? I believe it is. Are we hiring somebody new? No, we're replacing a current position. Are we concerned with the finances? Of course we are. But I don't know if this is the place where we need to cut. Again, if we find out later in the year that we cannot actually afford it, then we can entertain layoffs and things like that. But that's something that we'll have to decide later on down the road. Okay, any other questions, comments? Roll call.
Sean Burdell,
Yes.
Bernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Kathy Driscoll.
Yes.
Lee Landzadi,
Yes.
Jim Olive,
Yes.
Crystal Teddy,
Yes.
Megan Bryant,
Yes.
Larry Bud.
No.
Motion carries 7-1. Motion to approve the purchase of a 2020 Dodge Durango for the fire department utilize the Illinois State Police contract pricing at a cost not to exceed $28,558, which include trade-in values for the 2000 Jeep and the 2000 Mercury outboard. I think the bid came in at $30,000. I think we were going to get $1,750 trade-in on both the Jeep for $1,250 and the boat for $500. Now, if we approve this purchase, we still have time to decide if we want to trade those vehicles or motors, the boat and the Jeep, if we want to trade them in or pay the extra $1,750. So that's the motion on the floor.
Can you comment on that?
Yeah, let's get a motion first if we can.
Let me ask that the motion be modified somewhat. There is a statute that whenever you trade in vehicles for another vehicle, you have to solicit competitive bids to do that. It looked to me like, looking at the minutes, that there was 6 vehicles that was obtained. I assume those were bids that were obtained. So then we don't have to, if they weren't actual bids, then just make a motion, including that motion to waive any statutory requirement of competitive bids. It's just an odd statute that says whenever you trade in vehicles for another vehicle, you gotta do competitive bids, so.
So do I get a motion to approve the purchase? Motion by Alderman Bryan, second.
Second, so we can have a conversation.
Second by Alderman Bertle. Questions or comments? Alderman Bertle?
Well, I mean, if we're gonna cut back, I mean, I hate to pick on the fire department tonight. And I know you're smiling back there, but this is definitely someplace we can cut back. So, this is a no-brainer here.
Alderman Skoltedi?
He took the words right out of his mouth.
Okay. Alderman Driscoll?
That's the exact same thing I was gonna say, to table this till we know our money situation better,
All right.
which is essential cost right now.
We got a motion and a second, so we will vote. Roll call.
Bernie Dorchenez,
No.
Kathy Driscoll.
No.
Lee Landzadi,
No.
Jim Olive,
No.
Crystal Teddy,
Nope.
Megan Bryant,
Yes.
Larry Bud,
No.
Sean Burdell.
No.
Motion fails 7-1. Motion to approve the city filing a proof of claim and release in the class action lawsuit, liquid aluminum sulfate antitrust litigation, pending in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and to submit any and all other documents in support of said proof of claim and release. Motion by Alderman Bertle, second by Alderman Skoltedi.
Just another comment, I think I sent everyone an email what this was all about. This came across Dave's desk and he asked us to take a look at it. The actual deadline to file this proof of claim had expired at the time that everybody got it. But it seems that they may be accepting late filings. You got some communications from some outfit that says, hey, we'll do this for you. We'll take a third of any recovery, which means that the class action attorneys are already going to take a third. You're down to 1/3 if in fact you get anything. So we decided that let's try this route. You guys file it on your own, so at least you'll get 2/3 if you get anything. So you're just approving this so that Dave can sign off and the mayor can sign off and we can get it in the mail and see what happens.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Discussion of opinion letters from Benton and Associates concerning the current status of the property located at 204 East Main Cross, Taylorville, Illinois, and any motions relating thereto. I'll read this letter from Benton and Associates that we just got this afternoon. Dear Mayor Barry, this letter reports our recommendation for limited access concerning the building demolition at 204 East Main Cross. Based on our observation during a limited structural inspection conducted on March 12th, we recommended the structure be considered for immediate demolition based on our conclusion that the structure is an immediate and continuing hazard to public safety as a dangerous and unsafe building. Furthermore, we recommend limiting all access to the unstable building due to the present safety risk. We request a variance to waive the IEPA requirement to conduct hazardous material inspection, asbestos, in the building prior to demolition due to the building being structurally unsafe. The building demolition and disposal shall be completed in accordance with all applicable local, state, federal laws, codes, rules, and regulations for commercial buildings. That is from Matthew B. Hardy, PE and SE, licensed structural engineer of Benton and Associates. That's what we received this afternoon. So that
Mr.
carries
Mayor, you
on.
also received a communication of March 13th that everyone has got a copy of, which has photographs of the subject building that the structural engineer was reciting to you, that they actually was on the aerial ladders and looked at and inspected it. And there's more details actually what's wrong with that particular building.
Due to the imminent danger, I asked both of you one-on-one last Thursday to approve or ratify a contract with Joe Coleman and/or Joe Coleman Salvage and Demolition to demolish and remove all debris, garbage, junk from the property located at 204 East Main Cross, and to waive any and all statutory and city bidding requirements concerning this contract. So we need a motion to waive the statutory bidding requirements. Motion by Alderman Bud, second.
Second.
Alderman Bertle, questions or comments?
The only question I had Thursday night was, the property owner seems like he's kind of getting off scot-free here a little bit. So, was there any kind of agreement with him on the city either recouping some of the costs at some point, or receiving the property at the end of this, or?
We are in negotiation with him, Rocci, and myself, and along with Mr. Parker and his attorney have been in discussion about different things. We've also noticed that probably the second building to the east needs to come down also. So we've been in discussion. The third building is still one of those things. So our attorney and Mr. Parker and him and his attorney have been in discussion this afternoon over this. But my feeling is on this particular first building, it needs to come down as soon as possible. And that's why I asked you individually last week if you could waive the bidding process. Mr. Coleman has got the letter from the EPA. He's ready to start work tomorrow. So.
He started Saturday.
Well, but as far as destruction, demolition, I think it was all hand-to-hand work.
And I think the motion is going to be subject to, I believe the mayor has received a verbal okay from Mr. Parker to go ahead and demolish the building. I have given you an affidavit of consent to demolish the property, which we're asking him to sign. And that's what he was reviewing with his attorney today. So this motion is to waive the bidding, authorize the contract, but subject, of course, to Mr. Parker at least signing that document. And you'll see the communications that I sent out today were Mr. Nelson's attorney for the VDD ordinance. I asked him, what about putting the same kind of language that I've got in the affidavit of consent to demolish the property in the VDD ordinances you have tonight? He says he could do that.
Right.
And that's probably what we're going to recommend, that language be changed. What it essentially says is, folks, is that in the document that we're asking to sign, and if you guys go forward with the VDD ordinance and the development agreement, is that he would be obligated on paper to reimburse the city for the cost of the demolition. And in fact, if he doesn't pay it, then you would acquire, we have a lien on the building and acquire title to the building that you demolish in empty lot. We are being told that he doesn't have the wherewithal to pay for the demolition cost. The mayor has asked him, because a couple of you, rightly so, asked questions. How do we know that for sure? The mayor is asking for some kind of a financial affidavit to show that he does or does not have it. The property, you understand, is not insured. And so, as a practical matter, on paper, it says he's going to reimburse it. Yes, you could. Can you go on fighting? And yes, you could. Yes, you could go get a judgment and try to get him to pay it. But if in fact his judgment proved, the question was last week was the imminent danger of it collapsing. And the mayor had to shut down the business. What is it, Fly High? Today the mayor shut them down anyway, so, the governor, so that made that thing. But according to the letters, it's about ready to fall over, particularly one wall. So what you're doing tonight is giving him the okay to get the contract signed and waive the bidding, subject to Mr. Perkins signing that document. Between now and Thursday, I think the mayor's going to call a special meeting, so that hopefully by then, you'll have some sense as whether it's one building, two buildings, or three buildings, and what is the terms and conditions of it. That makes sense? Any questions?
The only thing that I'm concerned about is, and again, I'm fine, I gave the U.S. to spend the money to knock it down. The one thing I have concern with, before we get going too far, is that for the expenditures we're gonna have to dole out for this, that, he's gotta be, he's gotta, hold on a second. It seems that there's asbestos, and if we go further, for the money we're spending out, it would say that we need to recuperate from all three, because we're never gonna get all of our money back, and which is not the real case, but, I think we need to move forward and look to see what it would cost to demo all the buildings at once, because there may be more of an associated cost trying to be specific with knocking one building down without trying to do damage to the next. So if we could hold off to a certain extent to get it into a safe position and then progress further to see if he's gonna deed all these buildings over to us, to be able to knock them down all at once, we may be able to save $5,000, $10,000, $15,000.
I agree. I think the main thing is it's imminent danger. We are going to resurface that road. I'd like to get all three buildings torn down in the next 2 weeks if possible, because I'd hate for that second, third building to fall on our new paved road on East Main, whereas we're putting the new water lines and things like that, potentially getting some of our employees hurt, or again, tearing up the road. Mr. Parker has indicated he does not have insurance. And we will be able to use BDD funds out of this. And I think with discussions with our attorney and Mr. Parker's attorney, we should be able to come up with agreement of at least tearing 2 of the buildings down and then possibly the third, and so we'll go from there.
The question that I think Mr. Parker is considering late this afternoon was, if you were inclined to do all three, is asking that he convey title to all three. So the city would end up owning them at the end. And we've confirmed, the mayor's been told, confirmed that the attorney for the BDD and Steve Klein say that this is a legal, legitimate expenditure of BDD funds for the demolition. So what you're doing would be legal if you want to do it. So.
I just don't want to get on the hook. I got some paperwork today for the BDD agreement that basically, there was nothing in there about him being everything was to be done at our expense, and without anything on there, I have an email about it, but there needs to be some kind of verbiage in there. I don't want to sign off and vote yes for anything that says basically we're going to take, because that'll be basically untie his hands and just say, nothing, we'll keep it, and I'm going to sell it, and I'm going to get you guys spent $150,000 knocking down 3 buildings, and then I'm going to sell it and get $10,000, $15,000 on that in the block.
Right. And I received a reply back from Attorney Nelson probably around 4 o'clock or so today, that the language that I asked to put in there, that would be similar to the affidavit and consent language, that he said it's okay to put that in there. So tonight when it comes up, I'm gonna suggest that you put that
Right.
language in there.
Right.
And that means that he would be responsible on paper to pay for it. And if he didn't get it paid for, then we would own the property. So, we'll rely upon what Mr. Nelson has told me. And the adjoining property owner, Mr. Patel, with the Fly High, he's already signed the agreement that we asked him to sign, because his building is connected to one of I guess be the west wall. And his agreement is that, yeah, we can take it down, and he said that he's going to build a wooden structure to close it up himself on his side of the property. Yes.
Any other questions or comments?
I have a
Alderman
comment.
Dorsey,
Last Thursday, at Mr. Romano's suggestion, the mayor was to ask each individual person, rather than as a group, whether they approved doing this or not. Last Thursday, my understanding was that we were going to use BDD money to tear down the one building. And there wasn't any more discussion that I remember of the other two buildings. One of the things that made me in favor of it was because of the fact we were going to spend BDD money. If the BDD money wasn't available, just like Larry said tonight, we don't have money to be spending on stuff like that. So that money would have had to come out of, it was not budgeted for, to tear that one building down, the money would have had to come out of the general fund. Okay. And we said that it's $70,000, probably maximum, to tear the one building down. You know, and time seems like it is of the essence because of the fact that there is a danger there, somebody getting hurt. I would hope that common sense reasoning would keep you away from that building, but as everybody knows, there's a definition for the word accident. Accidents happen. Also the fact that we're going to fix up Main Street. Now, it'd be kind of ridiculous to fix that street up and then dump bricks on it. Maybe you could try to protect that from happening, but you're still at risk of doing damage to the street. Now, today, off and on, I've been looking at this problem all day long. I've been interrupted. I've got some things going on in my life that wouldn't let me just sit there and come up with a decision. And one of the things that I was privy to, Kathy Driscoll must have asked Mr. Romano a question today.
She did.
And Mr. Romano responded to her, and I got a copy of that. I tried to print that off and bring it with me tonight, but my computer printer would not allow that. Mr. Romano, do you have that copy? Would you read that, what you wrote to Kathy Driscoll?
I will. Let me just pull it up here. Okay, said Kathy, the affidavit and consent to demolish property in its present form only concerns the demolition of one of the three buildings, i.e. the building where the roof collapsed. The affidavit of consent does not provide that Parker would reimburse the city, does provide that Parker would reimburse the city for the demolition cost, and his promise is secured by lien on the property. We understand the subject building is uninsured, and Parker claims he does not have the funds to repay the city. Thus, the lien would ultimately allow the city, following the demolition, to own the lot where the one building is now located. The BDD ordinance, if adopted, provides that the city will demolish the subject building with BDD funds without any obligation to repay the city or to convey the property to the city following demolition. I have sent an email to Attorney Nelson today asking if the ordinance should be revised to require Parker to repay the city for the cost of the demolition, with the inclusion of an option for the city, assuming Parker does not repay the city, to acquire the subject property after demolishing the building without any payment to Parker. I'll stop there for a moment because I posed that question to Mr. Nelson, and he replied affirmatively if we can make that language change. I go on to say City Code Sections 9-4-1 through 9-4-5 makes it illegal to maintain a dangerous building and requires an owner to tear down and remove or remodel the dangerous building to comply with the requirements for new buildings in the fire district. The landlord can be fined a minimum of $250 up to a maximum of $750 per day that the building remains a dangerous building. And of course, the owner would be responsible to pay the cost of demolition. 65 ILCS 5-11-311 addresses the available remedial action and or demolition of a vacant, dangerous, or unsafe building and gives the city a lien for the cost of any remedial or demolition work on the subject building if the owner fails to remedy that dangerous and unsafe condition. Subparagraph E of that state statute is the expedited procedure the city has used many times to demolish vacant, dangerous, and unsafe buildings that constitute an immediate and continuing hazard in our city. Attorney Rare called me a few minutes ago with Travis Parker in his office. Mr. Parker has entertained the thought of simply conveying all three buildings to the city in consideration of the city demolishing all three buildings. As a practical matter, Rare stated that Parker claims he does not have the funds to demolish any of these buildings. The mayor was informed last week that Mr. Parker only paid $25,000 for all three buildings.
Do you know, you say he doesn't have the wherewithal to tear it down. Do you know if there's a mortgage on that property?
We had title search. There is no mortgage on the property. There is a lien from the Illinois Department of Revenue of about $1,700 is what I found. We had the title company do a search.
So, let me see if I understand it. So either he had the wherewithal or somebody had the wherewithal to come up with the money to pay for that building, $25,000.
I think when the mayor investigated further from him, we think $12,000 of that price came from his mother, and he claims he still owes his mother $4,000. That's what we're being told. But the mayor today, based on valid questions, has asked him to provide some proof of his financial situation.
Well, you've heard me say this before. I feel strongly both ways. One part of me wants that to happen. All three buildings be torn down. If not just the one building's dangerous, I think that if the other two buildings there aren't dangerous now, they will be. As I understand it, there's either one or both of the other buildings are leaking water.
Well, we walked into it on Friday, and I walked quickly through it, so I'm going to stay here. But there was actual water falling on some kind of a bucket or something.
Right.
And things were sagging, so
There was numerous buckets full of water in building 2, I would call the middle building.
Right. Okay, so
it wouldn't camp out there.
okay, so if we were to pretend that the city has no involvement in this, what would Mr. Parker do? I mean, if the city didn't come to his rescue, then what would happen?
He would be sued if it fell, and, for example, wiped out Fly High, or if it, as the structural engineer told us on Friday, I guess it was, or Thursday now, when he was out there, that building, if it goes towards the Mitchelson building, you could reach over there. And of course, then they would have a right to sue. Just like anything else, we have legal rights to sue people for wrongdoing. But the question is, are you going to be able to collect from that judgment? And if it's uninsured and as a practical matter, the folks are judgment proof, I'm not saying it's paper, but if he doesn't have the money to collect it, you got a mess in your hands.
And I don't want to penalize Mr. Parker. I think that hindsight's always 20/20, and I think he probably didn't have that property inspected before he purchased the property. But everybody,
I would question the
most
inspector if he
most
did.
people in Taylorville knew that what shape that building was in. And I think that Mr. Watchman was very fortunate that Mr. Parker came along and purchased that property. Otherwise, he'd be facing this. And he does have the wherewithal to do what needs to be done. One other thing is that, you know, and I think that this is I know I've looked through the BDD stuff again today. In fact, I had practiced giving Kathy Driscoll a lecture tonight on the things that she didn't understand with the BDD money, but come to find out, she probably knew more than I did. Okay. And
She asked some good questions today.
she did. So that I chalked that off. That she's not going to get the lecture tonight. I've already marked that off the list. But you know, and the thing is that you know, we've been criticized recently on the purchase of the generator for this building, emergency generator. And if you look at and read through the booklet that Mr. Klein gave us that talks about the BDD, that's a perfect example of what you can do with the BDD money. One of the other things is that, you know, we haven't been denying people the BDD money. I mean, people have been asking for it, and we've given money to people, and there's some coming along that's in the mail. There's some that we just recently approved. But something else along that same line is that, and this talk has been going on for a long time about the hotel coming in out there in the Route 29 area where the industrial park is. And just like Steak and Shake, when they come to town, they wanted some BDD money to improve infrastructure, etc. In fact, they said that if the development behind the Steak and Shake comes to be, some of the commercial buildings, etc., the stores, is that the city's going to be required to put in another lane in the road to the tune of about $800,000. And I think that it's been mentioned before that the BDD money would, if in fact we were made to do that, and as I understand it, right now we're not made to do it because there is no evidence of new commercial buildings going in out there, new businesses coming in. So until that happens, we don't have to put in that lane. But that's one of the things that probably is going to have to happen. We're going to have to put that other lane in for $800,000 is mandated by the state. Before all of that, there was talk about, and one of the things was that was used as evidence to support the BDD and the TIF district was there was a hotel that was going to come to town. That didn't happen, but now we're hearing that there is evidence that somebody is looking to come to Taylorville. Okay, and if they're going to come in, they're going to ask for BDD money. So I'm torn between spending that money on East Main, and I don't deny it needs to be done. You don't have to convince me of that. I know it needs to be done. But I'm torn between that. Am I doing the right thing to vote for that and ignore all those other things? That's where I'm at. So I'm not fully supporting East Main, although I told the mayor Thursday night I would support it, but I didn't know as much Thursday night as I know now. So I'm kind of reneging on voting yes tonight on East Main, unless somebody can convince me that's the right thing to do. I'm done. Megan, you don't have to plan.
Well, the precedence is here. Like Chris said, in the event that the building does come down, consequently the second one will probably come down. The whole synopsis is that I think what we should do is go ahead and take 3 down. And enlightening to how much it's going to cost if we can go ahead and do that. Like I said, the Benton Associates looked at them. They told us what the statistics were, and I feel the money is coming out of the BDD for this purpose. Mr. Parker is going to be the one going to have to pay the restitution if we go the other way. And I think if we can do this and the city becomes the owner of that property, that's what we need to do. I don't see any other way to get away from this. I kind of agree with what Mr. Dorson has said, but I think right now what we have to do, because if we build, if we tear it down, and if we only tear down one building or two buildings, and the event is when we go ahead and work on Main Street coming in, it could have and also it could affect Randy Mitchelson's property across the street, like Mr. Romano said. So my vote would be to go ahead and try to get 3 buildings taken down at the cost and see if we can do it in a reasonable price to the city through the BDD.
Anyone else?
Well, tonight, what we're voting on is 204 East Main Cross. If the mayor calls a special city council meeting for Thursday night, which I think he's going to, then we'll discuss the 2 buildings. But actually, it's one parcel, according to Andy today. But tonight, we're here to approve where the building is at danger. That's what tonight is about. And then between now and Thursday, if the mayor pursues it, then we would get some cost estimates together from Mr. Coleman to see what it would cost, since he has the equipment here, to tear down the other 2 buildings or one parcel. I can tell you this, I was in the building on Thursday. The center building is, if we don't, probably within, I'm going to say 6 to 8 months. I mean, I don't know, I'm not a structural engineer. That building is not in very good shape. And so we're going to readdress this probably in 6 to 8 months. But that all needs to be discussed Thursday night. We need to vote on 204 tonight.
Alderman Olive?
I just, something hasn't been mentioned, but it's and just food for thought. Keep in mind, as we do East Main Cross down there, it's all gonna be new, and just sitting there thinking, like, on nights that the Eagles Club, when they have bingo and everything, people are parked all over. So I'm assuming that if we tore all 3 buildings down, that we could turn that into a parking lot of sorts, which would help probably more than just the Eagles Club, even the old Baptist church, whatever the name of that is. Yeah, Pillars, for overflow parking. It would clean up the neighborhood considerable, so just something to think about.
Alderman Driscoll?
I just wanted to clarify, and I appreciate you bringing up those comments. The questions I have are not whether it needs to be demolished. Obviously, it's unsafe. I understand that. And I'm fine with that. My question is, I hesitate to jump right into the city paying for everything and swooping in to save the day. My question about that was, first off, I'd like to see some proof. If someone says I can't pay, it's easy for someone to say that, but I'd like to see proof. So you're addressing that. Because I know that when the front facade came down off of the old George's Candy store, the bricks tumbled out into the street and everything. That was more of a hazard to me. It's a much more well-traveled area. But the city didn't do anything about that. Okay, no. And but again, we're setting a precedent.
There was insurance involved in that.
There was insurance? Okay. So then if you have a situation like that, with this being said to be a pressing matter, an emergency situation, I felt that would have been as well. I'm just concerned, I want to make sure as a steward for the city that I'm doing my job to be sure that we're receiving and checking out any of the possible funds. If there's a way that this gentleman does have money and can pay for it, they should. If we do acquire the property, so then we're going to be spending basically $70,000 just to own one, and multiply that by 3 if we're going to do all 3, which it sounds like we will. Then we are on the hook for those, and really there's not much we're going to be able to do with it besides the public parking spot. So I'm looking ahead and I'm trying to be a careful steward of our money and trying to see if there's a better way to do this. If not other way, then it needs to be done for public safety. But my other question for you was, wasn't there something already on the ordinances? Is there some law already that you have to have a safe building? And you cited those to me. There actually is an ordinance stating that. And then when I looked at the the affidavit, it said on there, it acknowledged this is not a safe building. So I'm thinking if that's already the law, why haven't we been enforcing the law and told somebody, if you've got an unsafe building, you need to be doing something about it? Until we wait till it falls down, I have no money, and the city has to spook him. So that was the point of my questions. This is my own thoughts on this and what I asked you about. I just want to clarify why. I'm not against
Well,
demolition.
I might answer a couple. I talked to the structural engineer today by phone. They said that this building needed to come down as soon as possible. It was a safety hazard. I asked him, just off the top of his head, if I had him come inspect other buildings around the square, what would the approximate cost be? He said just a ballpark figure, depending on what he did, between $800 and $1,000. Again, is that something that we want to encourage in the future? And who's going to pay for that inspection? We do not have a structural engineer on salary right now. Andy's not capable. And so, do we want to go to that expense? That's up to the council. In the past, I don't think we've had any inspection policies on anything. Some of the cities do have an electrical inspection on buildings and things like that. The city of Taylorville has decided not to, because it probably is cost prohibitive. You know, there's a few buildings that I would like to get inspected. And that's one of the things I'm gonna ask at the next finance meeting in April. Can we spend that money? But with Mr. Budd saying now, and again, I agree with the times that we're going through now, we don't have the extra money. So again, there could be a building collapse in the next week or so. The one I'm talking about is probably the one next to Reed's.
Yeah.
You know,
that
do
one's
we,
bad.
you know, does, and so do we find the owner? He doesn't have the money, or, you know, I don't know if he has the money.
This is gonna
There's
keep
some-
coming up.
Yeah, so that's the thing. But what we're asking for tonight, and I did get a verbal agreement from everyone except one, is we need to go so we can get this dangerous building tore down tomorrow. We can worry about putting the liens and things when we discuss with Mr. Parker the next day or two with our city attorney and his attorney. And then if we want to go further with the other two buildings, or at least the other one in the middle, then we can discuss that. But I think the city has the money through the BDD fund. Thank God we approved that a year and a half ago. Because where would the city be without that, to be honest with you? And so I think tonight, I think everybody's in agreement that this is a good expenditure for the BDD fund. So,
I'll make mine quick.
Okay.
You know, the biggest thing about the BDD is the fact that it comes with a lot of things you can and cannot do with it. And a lot of times when you agree to pass the BDD up front, you don't necessarily agree with all the terms in the BDD itself. So this is something we can spend the money even if you don't agree with it or not. Similar to the generator, you know, I think it was about 50-50 if I remember right on the vote. Some of us didn't agree with it, some of us did. It's still an expenditure whether you agree with it or not. It's just one of the things, well, you have to decide whether you're gonna spend it or not. The only thing I have a problem with this particular issue is that the property owner right now is getting off scot-free. And I do have a problem with that, but I also know that the building has to come down, not dumb enough to think that we can just let it sit there for a couple of weeks. But I think the city as a whole would be better off to acquire the entire property, tear all three buildings down and be done with it now, instead of festering this wound up for another probably 6, 8, 10 months. You know, it's gonna happen again. And I don't see, he doesn't have the financial wherewithal to do it now. I can't see that changing in the next year or two. So he's probably not gonna come up with the end. And I would think that Mr. Coleman would probably have a better rate on demolition if he was doing the whole project versus trying to peel out a building in the middle of two other ones, which is kind of difficult to do in itself. So I wish we would end up with the property. Whether we can get it sold or not, I don't know. Maybe we can turn it into a parking lot, maybe we can donate it for a park. I don't know what we do with it, but at least we have something in the end for our efforts.
one particular alderman told me we could turn it into a dog park.
Very good.
That was not me. Nice.
Just an idea, Alderman Bryant.
I didn't know.
I wanna also give Megan, compliments. She also was.
So her head will get swelled up.
She was giving me the same kind of questions that Kathy was. I just happened to answer Kathy, so she was on top of it.
All right.
I think tonight, your motion is to approve the contract, waive the bidding, subject to Mr. Parker signing off on that affidavit. So we have to have that permission. And then when you do the ordinance, do the same thing. And then, I don't know if you can wait till Thursday, you can take on them all the time. Thursday, you may have another BDD ordinance to pick up the other two.
Roll call.
Kathy Driscoll.
To be clarified, just on taking it down with the,
This is the contract for Joe Coleman waiving bidding
with the bidding.
and subject to Mr. Parker signing the affidavit of consent.
And subject to the adoption of the BDD ordinance in your next, is it later on here, this one, the next ordinance? Because you gotta have the ordinance adopted to expend the BDD funds.
Lee Landzadi.
Yes.
Jim Olive.
Yes.
Driscoll Teddy.
Yes.
Megan Bryant.
No.
Larry Bud.
Yes.
Sean Burdell.
Yes.
Bernie Dorchenez.
No.
Motion passes 6-2.
Mr. Mayor, with that motion, you ought to go back up on the discussion of the opinion letters and just get a motion to authorize the submission of the bid associate letter to IEPA. Get a quick permit.
So we need a motion to approve the letter.
To submit it to the EPA.
To submit to the IEPA. And that's not right there. Everyone received it
I
tonight?
did, that's what you read.
So,
Sent that to us.
that was email.
motion by Alderman Bud, second by Alderman Olive. Roll call.
Lee Landzadi.
Yes.
Jim Olive.
Yes.
Driscoll Teddy.
Yes.
Megan Bryant.
Yes.
Larry Bud.
Yes.
Sean Burdell.
Yes.
Bernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Kathy Driscoll.
Motion carries 7-1.
Did everyone vote yes?
The next will be your ordinance for the BDD. You voted
Just
yes.
submit the paper, the letter to the IEPA? Yeah, I'll vote yes.
Okay, motion carries 8-0. Thank you.
Now your ordinance.
An ordinance approving the use of BDD tax funds for the demolition and debris removal concerning the said 204 East Main Cross property.
And that would be subject to the BDD ordinance be amended to provide provisions that requires Mr. Parker to repay the city for the cost of demolition with the inclusion of an option for the city, assuming Mr. Parker does not repay the city, to acquire the subject property after demolishing the building without any payment to Mr. Parker.
I'm sure you'll send me that in a minute.
I will.
Okay.
To the-
Comments or?
And subject to the execution of the development agreement by Mr. Parker that the ordinance requires.
Okay, now, if we amend this now,
Alderman Doughty.
if we amend this now, and the question is, we have a special meeting on Thursday night.
That'll pick
We
up the other
discuss
two.
that.
That'll pick up the other two.
We will pick up the other.
If that's gonna
That's
be the
fine.
decision.
So we have an answer. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. So we have a motion to approve this. Motion by Alderman Skoltedi, second by Alderman Landzadi. Roll call.
Jim Olive.
Yes.
Driscoll Teddy.
Yes.
Megan Bryant.
No.
Larry Bud.
Yes.
Sean Burdell.
Yes.
Bernie Dorchenez.
No.
Kathy Driscoll.
Yes.
Lee Landzadi.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-2. Now,
The next motion is just to approve that affidavit that we've been talking about. That I sent out to everybody. That we're asking Mr. Parker to sign.
motion to approve the affidavit of consent to demolish property concerning 204 East Main Cross property to be executed by Travis Parker in the form as prepared by the city attorney and in such form as the mayor and city attorney may approve. So we need a motion to approve that affidavit. Motion by Alderman Bud, second. Alderman Landzadi. Roll call.
Driscoll Teddy.
Yes.
Megan Bryant.
No.
Larry Bud.
Yes.
Sean Burdell.
Yes.
Bernie Dorchenez.
No.
Kathy Driscoll.
Yes.
Lee Landzadi.
Yes.
Jim Olive.
Yes.
Kathy, I didn't hear you vote.
I'm sorry, I said yes.
Yes, motion carries 6-2. Motion to approve the consent to remove adjoining brick wall concerning 204 East Main Cross property to be executed by Rupesh S. Patel in the form of, as prepared by the city attorney and in such form as the mayor and city attorney may approve. And Mr. Patel has already signed this. We just need a motion to approve it. Motion by Alderman Bertle, second by Alderman Skoltedi.
Comment?
Comment?
When this,
Landzadi?
when this wall comes down, we address the fact that Mr. Patel was going to put up a wooden wall. I think Mr. Goodall ought to be involved in that, to look at that situation over, as well as you. And also with the structural engineers too, to clarify that, if there's any structural differences between that building, so we don't have to go back and look at the how it could be affected. So there's disturbing of the wall coming down on this property.
The agreement that he's signing, that he's waiving any damages to that.
Okay. I wasn't aware
And
of that.
also for him to put that back wall up, he'll have to get a building permit from the city.
Yes.
So we should be protected.
Andy, comment?
That roof runs north and south, so it's not gonna affect that in any way, shape, or form. It's basically just closing in that wall underneath those trusses. So the weight-bearing part runs north and south, not east and west.
Alderman Driscoll?
Question, just to clarify, we are taking down that wall at our expense through the BDD. Does this gentleman have any insurance that would help him in that situation?
I did not ask him if he had insurance.
He volunteered.
We talked to him, he's already hired a contractor, so as soon as that wall is taken, it's demolished, and he will have a contractor there. I don't know if that's his.
I didn't know
I'm
if his
sure he
insurance
would
would
have
do
some.
anything to reimburse us.
Yeah, I don't know if he'd have legal recourse against Mr. Parker or not for this, but I
He
think.
seemed very cooperative there
Right,
that day.
very cooperative.
He was just anxious to get rid of it.
Alderman Bertle?
A suggestion, if he's required out of the building, make sure we waive that.
It's up to you.
It's up to you, sir.
Okay.
Larry Bud's going the other direction, he's trying to make the city.
That's what I was gonna say.
Now, this poor guy, he's just guilty by association, he's just a neighbor, and now he's got a part of the building on top of his building, and he's gonna get tore down, he's gonna have a hole inside the building.
He's lucky.
And he's not asking for any of this, if there's somebody here that feels sorry for it, I feel sorry for him.
Do we have any idea what the building permit fee would be?
I don't know if you would need one, because all you're doing is, you're not changing the square footage in any way, shape, or form. You're just changing a wall from brick to wood.
You'll need a building permit. It's a structure. It's a structural. But you can waive it, but he's saying to waive the building permit.
I don't think it would be $30, $40. I'll say it's All right. Okay. So a motion is already in a second, so roll call.
Megan Bryan.
No.
Larry Bud.
Yes.
Sean Bertle.
Yes.
Bernie Dorchenez.
No.
Kathy Driscoll. Lee Landzadi.
Yes.
Wallace.
Yes.
Driscoll Beck.
Yes. Motion carries 6-2. City attorney update.
4 quick matters, folks. The 1600 East Water Main Extension Project with the Davis folks. The documents prepared will be handed to Mr. Speaker. Here he is. I spoke to him. He'll have those in hand tomorrow. GSI easement documents are completed. Mr. Speaker will get those tomorrow so we can get them signed. Thursday, tomorrow, we're having another teleconference on the Cobblestone Hotel project. And then I think the plan is on Thursday at the Finance Committee to discuss the proposal at length and to get some input from the folks as to what direction you want to go. And then finally, the Park District, the mayor has had a couple of conversations. And at this point, we do not have the storm sewer easement signed. And there's some resistance that they want the city to convey the park, the golf course to them in exchange for the easement. And I don't think that's going to be on the cards. That's where we're at, so we're still working on that. Any questions?
Alderman Dorchenez.
Probably not related to anything you just said, but just out of curiosity, we were discussing some issues that the city's having with the Park District with the easement at James Park. And who owns, does anybody here know, I could go to the courthouse, but, and if Earl's here, I could ask him, but does anybody here know who owns the golf course, the property?
That's a good question, and I wish, don't know. We haven't any kind of look on it. Maybe Earl does know.
Do we know the
That's-
address?
That's the issue that has been raised. Is supposedly 40 years ago, before my time, your time, there was some kind of alleged arrangement with the city owning this golf course. and some kind of agreement that the park district could use it. So I've not seen any document, we haven't researched that far, but that's surfaced, and we don't think that's a fair exchange for
I
something.
don't know if I can like, from what I've been told and what I've heard, 53 years ago in 1967, the city owned the ground. They leased that ground to the park board for $1 a year, as long as they used it as a golf course, and the park board would have control over it. Supposedly in 2009, the park board came to here when they needed money for the irrigation system, and they were shot down by the city council. You were on that council at the time, I think the only one. Brotherton was the mayor, and they sort of relinquished and it was a 40, that it had to go back, it had to go to the park because it was for over 40 years the term of the lease. Back when that was put out, or a lease could be more than 40 years. And so, when I asked them about the easement, they asked about if we would give them the land where the golf course is now located. And so that's where the issue is. I'm going to go to the park board meeting Monday night. All we're asking for is a simple little easement right along the right of way. It should be no issue, but again.
Let me just-
20-foot wide to put your storm sewer in.
They want to trade the easement,
Golf course.
if in fact we still own the golf course.
Yeah.
We still own the golf course. They want
According to
trade
them, we own the golf course, according to the park
Well,
board.
I'm against that.
Why?
If we own it, why do we need an easement?
We don't
No.
own James Park.
I don't own
We
James
own
Park.
the golf course. So,
Can we possibly trade just one little section?
well, I don't know. So, that is something we're going to go today in Cleveland at the park board meeting next Monday. Okay, mayoral report. First of all, I'd like to address a couple of issues from the last few days. The recent collapse of a building. Our first thought is the safety of all Taylorville residents and visitors. My second thought was to get East Main Cross open. Friday, my thought was to get Fly High business open, but due to the coronavirus, we have a couple weeks to take care of that issue. So I thank the aldermen that voted to approve all those things. The most important 2 weeks of my administration will be the next 2 weeks. I would like to, and I'm going to read my press release to the public tonight. I would like to reiterate to the public to please try and stay home and limit your access to groups, including but not limited to church, congregating at grocery stores, or any other public gatherings. Please limit personal contact with others. Please utilize other avenues to communicate, such as cell phone, landline, internet, or email. If you have symptoms or you are not feeling well, please first call your doctor's office or local walk-in clinic. Use the phone. Do not go there and put other people at risk. Do not go to your doctor's office or the emergency room at the hospital before calling them first. If you have any questions or concerns about your health or your family's health, please call the Christian County Public Health Department. That number is 824-4113. Please, Alderman, write that down. Also, anyone in need of food. I had a call today from a lady. She doesn't know how she's going to feed her 3 kids. I directed her to the food pantry. They're open tomorrow from 8:30 to 10. The schools are taking care of school children, lunch and breakfast, and our police department and our city hall has offered to help them in any way. But I heard today they are going to transport the food on buses to bus stops and help kids get the food that way. So I think that's a great idea. Anyone in need of food, please call the mayor's office or call, and I can direct you in the right direction. The council meeting scheduled for tonight, which is all here, will be open to the public, but we request that you contact the mayor or your alderman with any specific concerns. We would like to limit access for the safety of our city officials, superintendents, and other management. We will not be doing a youth of the month or volunteer of the month at tonight's council meeting to limit access to the city hall due to safety concerns. Also, we have set in place limited access within the municipality for the safety of our employees. We have increased our cleaning routine to several times a day throughout the municipal building. My number one concern as mayor, as I've stated, is the health and safety of not only our employees, but all the residents of Taylorville and Christian County. All health and safety issues will be addressed by Greg Nimmo, as he is the coordinator for the Montgomery Christian County Emergency Management Team. We will work side by side with Health Officer Andy Goodall, Fire Chief Aderman, and Police Chief Wheeler, and we will work as diligently as we are able. This is bigger than the tornado. If any one of our employees need anything, please contact me at my office phone, 287-7946, or my cell phone. We will put a freeze on spending, a freeze on hiring, and I urge all superintendents to only allow overtime in emergencies. We will work closely with state and federal officials, and as more information becomes available, we will release this information to the public. So please, stay home and call people before you go anywhere if you got any health concerns. Thank you. Committee reports. Discussion and/or motions to approve, adopt, and/or deny, and/or table, and/or amend, and/or refer to an appropriate committee in whole or in part the matters regarding the following subject matters discussed at the committee level. Personnel Committee, Alderman Lanzati.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion to recommend to the City Council to bid and/or advertise an office level 1 position in the city clerk's office to be filed pending successful completion of a 30-day probationary period for deputy clerk. I'd like to make that in the form of a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Alderman Lanzati, second.
Second.
By Alderman Bryant. Questions or comments?
We just discussed having a hiring freeze. I know we need that position filled. Is this a conflict? I mean, this is something we have to do if we're talking about freezing hiring. I'm just asking, because you just said it.
Well, that's a question. This is filling a position. It's not hiring a
Okay.
new position.
Okay.
My only thought on that, I think that person is needed in that office if we're not on so-called this coronavirus thing for the next 2 weeks or 4 weeks or 6 weeks. Is this something that we can delay? That's my only question. And I know Mr. Bud feels strongly about different things like that, but that's up for the council to decide. So you got a motion and a second. So Alderman.
Mr. Bud, what are you're voting yes or no on this?
Again, the position probably needs filled.
Well, I understand all
But I'm
that.
just
I mean,
telling
are you
you
going to vote yes or no?
What's happening, it's going to start happening tomorrow, is going to have an effect come June. And I listened to the president today on there, and they're expecting this could go as long as up to June, or July or August. Now, you wanna know the truth? Property tax will start coming in June. But if we don't receive funds, the sales tax, and this gets as bad as they're predicting, where are we gonna have all the money to meet all these expenses? I will be voting no, and I told you, I agree this probably needs to be filled. But I'm giving you from my perspective, finance chairman, we have to be cautious what's gonna happen here in the next few months.
Alderman Bryant.
Quick question. Okay, so this is a position we're still paying, right now? Is this position, okay, so I guess I just don't, it's not like we're adding new debt, and it really is pay for one employee for 4 months, is that gonna make or break the city?
To be honest with you, and Julie, correct me if I'm wrong, we'll be replacing an office level 3 with an office level 1.
Oh, so it's
we
cheaper.
will get some reduction in pay.
Correct. Okay. That's it, I'm
Alderman
good.
Bertle.
Yeah, this is, I mean, I don't know if you guys realize this, but the city clerk's office is pretty much the heartbeat of the city. There's no way, I'm not stroking Julie's ego tonight, but there's no way that office can get by without this position. They do too much work in that office. Matter of fact, they do most of the work when it comes to everything that involves the 8 of us or 9 of us. So I don't know how you can, if we're gonna cut back, it'd be the next thing, not this person.
All right, any other questions, comments? Roll call.
Larry Bud,
No.
Sean Burdell.
Yes.
Ernie Dorchenez,
Yes.
Kathy Driscoll.
Yes.
Lee Landzadi.
Yes.
Jim Mullins,
Yes.
Chris Popetti.
Yes.
Megan Bryan.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-1.
Motion to recommend to the city council to hire 18 summer seasonal help for the 2020 season. HBO 1, street sewer 7, cemetery 5, water 3, and lake 2. I'd like to make this in the form of a motion.
Motion by Alderman Landzadi, second by Alderman Dorchenez. Comment?
Yeah, Mr. Newberry, you're gonna get 5 people, and you still have other people that this summer when those students are here working?
No, that counts everybody. That's 5 college and or staff, quick staff.
The people that you've been hiring over the years from Springfield? Is there any, I'm just thinking, can we eliminate those people? Because can't a college student do the same job that those people from Springfield do?
I don't know where you're getting from.
Well, where I'm coming from is the college students, we don't have to pay them as much as we pay the people in Springfield.
They don't come until May, and I need help before May.
We need the quick staff people that start in April, and the college kids don't come until the end of May.
Okay.
And the problem is, if we would lay off the quick staff people in the spring, and the college kids were here, then we'd have a heck of a time hiring them back in the fall, correct? Alderman Bryan?
I mean, and I could be wrong, but most colleges are pretty much gonna be, I don't think they're really going back. So I think there's a really good chance that our college students could be arriving home much sooner than we're used to. So in that case, maybe we can fill it with more college students, you know, sooner than the expensive quick staff. Just an idea.
That's a good idea.
That would be a good guess. I mean, we don't know.
I think
But,
they're already all back. I think all the colleges are done.
Yeah,
And they're not sending them back.
yeah. I'm just saying, it might be worth reaching out to, you have the people you hire every year, correct?
I'll probably have 3 college people, and then I'll try to get by with 2 quick staff and through the spring.
Yeah, and maybe ask your college friends if they have other college friends that are home, you know? How quick do you wanna start, and just get the cheaper ones going?
What I think Alderman Bryan and Alderman Dorchenez are saying, can we hire college kids and not the quick staff? Because even we pay the quick staff like 15 or 16, we pay that to that company, whether that guy makes that or not, and we're paying the high school or college kids 9 1/4.
It could be possible, but the quick staff is a lot more experienced. I've had them back every year. And I have 1 college kid coming back with experience. And, you know, it's whatever you guys want to do.
Well, so maybe if you can cut your quick staff back to 2 with 3
It
college.
is. It
Oh, it
is.
is a 2?
Yeah.
Been back to nine.
This is 5 extra people
Right.
altogether. It could be 2 quick staff and 3 college, 3 quick staff, 2 college, because I don't know what I'm gonna get, you know,
I think this year.
Well, I think it's worth asking our college workers if they're gonna be back sooner and start sooner. Just, even if you still do the quick staff, at least then you've got people coming out.
If I can get them back sooner, I will, because I'm gonna need them. Because
Right.
we got 120 acres out there and 18,000 tombstones. And we buried 6 people this week.
Well, very healthy.
You should be happy for that.
Hey,
And also, college kids can only work up to 600 hours a week,
we're 600
or a
hours
year. Then you have to start paying them an IMRF and put the job up for bid.
That's 15 weeks at 40 hours.
Alderman Olive?
I think, you know, we're going back and trying to figure out what we're gonna, and I really got the feeling that this summer is probably gonna be different than any summer that we've ever had in the passed. I mean, who knows? Who knows what the financial shape the city will be in if we can afford any college kids. I mean, we're filling positions within the city of employees that are, it could be that, we might have some tall grass this year, just because we can't, and I know you try to keep the airport looking nice and do a very fine job of it.
Well, we also take care of the airport too.
Well, and all of them, but this could be a year that, you know, that we can't afford to take care of things in the normal fashion. And I think we're kind of, we don't know. So I hate to try to vote on something that I have no idea what kind of shape we're gonna be in. And I just got the gut feeling that it's not going to be a good summer.
Alderman Bertle?
Just for the sake of argument, I mean, just because we approved the motion to hire the personnel doesn't mean we have to hire them.
Well, I understand that.
Number two is, I don't know why, we can't really take one off HBO, I don't know why we just don't take one off each one of them numbers across the board, that way everybody's one person short, that'll save the numbers, and just, you know, mayor or human resources, somebody has to keep track of the money versus how much needs in which department, just kind of go by that. Just because we pass this doesn't mean we have to hire.
No.
This gives the superintendent the ability.
Well, it is, we might all be quarantined to your house, so this way you do.
Alderman Bud?
Just to give you a little bit, come July 1st, the minimum wage goes to $10 an hour. If you hire the 1,800, or the 18 people right here at $10 an hour, that's $1,800 an hour that we're going to be spending. I'm not saying these people are not needed, by any means.
That's $180.
Yeah.
All right, but then you take that times 8 hours a day. It doesn't take long, that's gonna add up.
1440.
Right? Take that times 5.
7,200.
Easy to
Take that times 8 weeks.
56,000, 58,000.
It adds up. I'm just letting you guys know.
56, to be honest.
My concern is in the finance chairman, where are we gonna get all of our finances? The last thing I wanna see this city do is have to lay off our full-time employees. But if times get bad, we don't know what's gonna happen. And if any of you are watching the news, and if this goes on till July or August, I'm gonna tell you what, this is gonna go into late fall, early, winter. And when you come back here and you say, where are we gonna get the funds for some of this stuff, I'm gonna be able to tell you. I told you so. I hope I am wrong. But we have to prepare ourselves what could happen down the road. And I'm not saying Julie needs that person. And I'm not saying that you're doing the wrong thing by voting for it. I'm doing what, as finance chairman, what I think is right for the city at this time. So vote them in, but don't say that I didn't tell you.
Well, I think if we vote to hire them, we can always not hire them. I don't think we really get in that practice, because some of these kids are depending on that. If we say we're gonna hire them, they expect to be hired for the whole summer, but we can't give them that caveat to get out.
I could go on a little spill, but I'll shut up.
All right.
So the motion then to just to solicit applications for 18 summer/seasonal?
Most of these people have worked for us before. I don't know how many applications we've got.
A lot have already come in.
What's that?
A lot of applications have already
Right.
come in from people that worked last year.
So. Can just wait until we find out a little bit more, we can approve it at the April 7th, council meeting.
Give us a little bit.
Give us a little bit of time to see where we're going.
There may be some service workers that, you know, it's not college kids, there may be some service people that are gonna be out of job for a while that could actually take the place of a college kid or a staff quick that needs to start in April or May. So, I mean, there's potential for plenty of people to be out there looking for jobs, something maybe we should advertise and see, that, you know, there's gonna be several that are gonna need jobs come past.
Good one.
So, do we want to
Table,
table this?
motion to table.
Motion to table by Alderman Dorsones, second by Alderman Gonzalez.
I think that's a good.
Roll
idea.
call on table on this.
Hold on.
Do we have to, do we have a motion on it?
We have a motion to table and you second it.
Yeah, but I
So
mean,
that's what we're gonna vote
we
on.
wipe out the first.
That wipes out.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So this is a vote to table. Sean Burdell?
Yes.
Bernie Dorchenez?
Yes.
Kathy Gibson?
Yes.
Leland Duddy?
Yes.
Jim Olive?
Yes.
Crystal Teddy?
Yes.
Megan Bryan?
Yes.
Larry Bud?
Is this the table?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carries
Can I make
8
one
to 0.
comment?
One comment, short.
I'm looking here, again,
You
this
already
is where I'm
tabled.
coming from. Look at our sales tax for last year. For example, October and November, 237, 218,000. If we lose that revenue, there's payroll.
We may make that if toilet paper alone. I'm not sure.
All right, Alderman Gonzalez.
I'm not making light of it.
First thing.
Okay. Motion to recommend to the city council to bid or advertise a full-time dispatcher position in the police department to bring the total number of dispatchers to 5. And there again, this will affect what Mr. Bud.
Motion by Alderman Gonzalez,
Second.
second by Alderman Bryan. Comments or questions?
I have a comment or question.
All right,
It says total dispatchers at 5. Have we always had 5?
yes.
Yes.
In the past, we've had 5. And then
4 recently.
Right now, it's a part-time position that they're wanting to bump up to full-time.
Because they're having to pay them full-time stuff anyway.
Right, and we're having to pay overtime because when anybody wants to day off.
We are.
So you're making the argument that this is gonna save us money?
Correct.
I think we would.
Alderman Bud, comment?
Just remember, this one's gonna cost you benefits.
You voting no?
Yes, I'm voting. I know that.
That's all I need to know.
Oh, we're not paying benefits now?
No.
Not for the part-time.
Part-time.
That's not gonna save us money.
Well, we're paying them overtime. We're paying plenty of overtime in
Yeah,
the
but benefit costs us quite a way more
I
than that.
understand. This is what the chief asked for at the.
Well, I'm just trying to get it straight. I mean, not that I'm opposed to it, but benefits far outweigh the overtime.
The problem in the past is we have a hard time giving the part-time guy enough hours. I think lately we have been giving him plenty of hours because people are continuing either taking days off, vacation time and things. So the chief thinks it was very good for the budget if we would hire a fifth guy with overtime and sick days and everything. A lot of that Tuesday.
And I understand that, but coronavirus is, it's temporary. At some point, it's gonna end, and these guys can come back and ask for these personnel at a later date, in a couple months.
I agree. This passed through personnel committee, I think unanimously, but like I said, times have changed since March 5th. So there's a motion and a second, so roll call. Alderman Olive?
During the committee discussion, do we have to, and I'm asking this question because I truly don't know, do we have to pay benefits to a part-time after so many hours? No?
They're trying to keep them under, 59 a week, or 59 a day.
But if we go over that,
They give them until they keep them under the rate.
But if he goes to 60 hours of pay, do we have to pay him benefits? Yes, yes, the answer is yes, so.
well, and that's what I thought I
It
heard.
depends, like, you have to add that up for the whole year, basically.
I
Well,
guess,
I mean, there's gotta be some reason they keep them below 59. 60 must be the magic number.
well, we try to, but we don't know right now if we're gonna be able to do that. Has there been instances where we've gone over that?
There's a couple times where he did go over, during that week, but the second week, he might have been under an hour. But, it depends on, you have to take the hours that he's worked, and then, you can't go over so many in the whole year. Kinda like the library, they're at 58 hours. So once they get close to, if they work more, then
they have to cut back by the end of the year.
But then, and maybe the library would be a little different, from my understanding.
Well, they're IRF as
Dispatcher
well,
would,
and
would be something that you
no
couldn't cut
insurance.
back on it if you need them. Somebody has to be there to answer the radio and answer the phone that, I guess they have recently had to transfer some calls to the county. And they can't continue to do that because the county is busy enough the way it is. So, my question was just, I mean, the benefits, I understand Larry's position, and, I don't know, this one here is kind of a tough call because it is a position that, you're answering to the public. And then the public depends on somebody to be there to answer the phone.
That's the chief behind me.
No, he's
Roll
not here.
call.
Ernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Kathy Driscoll. Yes. William Landzadi.
Yes.
Jim Mullins.
Yes.
Chris Coletti.
No.
Megan Bryan.
Yes.
Larry Bud.
No.
Sean Burdell.
No.
Motion carries 5-3. The emergency services, Alderman Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mine's quick and easy. I'm not asking for any money or employees. I will entertain a motion to recommend to the city council to allow Chief Amon to apply for an AFG grant.
Motion by Alderman Driscoll.
Second.
Second by Alderman Bryant. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Lake and Airport, Alderman Dorchenez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first motion that came out of the Lake and Airport Committee meeting was a motion to recommend to the City Council to direct the city attorney to amend the City Code 7-4-6 to extend the length of boat docks on a case-to-case basis. I'll make that in the form of a motion, and I have a comment after a second.
Motion by Alderman Dorchenez, second by Alderman Skoltedi. Comment, Alderman Dorchenez.
Mr. Romano, this is what I was gonna talk to you about. The ordinance currently says the maximum length of a boat dock to be built is 25 feet. Okay, and what this wording is kind of bad. What we want to be able to do is to change that. That's what we discussed, to change it to allow for a maximum of 40 feet. But we want to be able to do it in other words, if somebody just comes in and says they want to build a boat dock, you say, you understand, right now the ordinance says 25 feet. If you go beyond that, 25 feet to 40 feet, we're going to look at those on a case-by-case basis to approve it. And what we would do is the Lake Committee take a look at it and make a recommendation to the City Council. And I called IDNR, and they said, to see if there was any restriction on that. And they said that there is not, but they cautioned me to make sure that if we're going to approve it to be like 40 feet out, that it is a safety issue. And you just want to make sure that if they put a 40-foot dock out there, that you're not going to have skiers running into it, et cetera. So that's what we want to put in the ordinance.
Roll call.
Megan Bryan.
Yes.
Larry Bud.
Yes.
Sean Burdell.
Yes.
Ernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Kathy Driscoll.
Yes.
William Landzadi.
Yes.
Jim Mullins.
Yes.
Chris Coletti.
Motion carries 8-0.
The next motion was to recommend the City Council to direct the City Attorney to amend City Code 7-1-4 to allow 2 campers on Lake Lot on a case-by-case basis and to amend the Lake Lot lease to reflect the changes. I'll make a motion and I have a comment after a second.
Motion by Alderman Dorchenez, second by Alderman Skoltedi. Comment, Alderman Dorchenez.
Once again, Mr. Romano, I need to visit with you about this because there's there's significant changes. You're gonna have to rewrite the whole thing because of the 2 campers on a lake lot. And one of the things, for example, we want to have in there is that we don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot. We don't want to have 2 campers on a lake lot and be stealing from ourselves. Here comes a person off another lake lot. Now we've got an empty lake lot and not able to rent that lake lot. So I need to talk to you about that. And then there's some values in there, some dollar amounts on several different places. And I wanted you to do this first, and then next month we would insert the dollar amounts. So you don't have to do that when you look at it. And if you have any questions, you can call me.
Got it.
Alderman Bryant, yes, you can
wait then to even vote on that till we have that information? Like the dollar amounts and everything like that?
This is just to direct the city attorney to change the ordinance, it's not passing of the ordinance,
My bad.
okay?
Yeah, you're good. Thank you.
Don't tell me it's good.
Roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
No.
Motion carries 7-1.
Excuse me, do we have a revote? All right, the last motion to come out of Lake Airport Committee meeting was a motion to recommend the city council to forward fiscal year 2020, 2021 late budget to the finance committee. I'll make that in the form of motion and I have a comment.
Motion by Alderman Dorsones, second by Alderman Skoltedi, comment Alderman Dorsones.
When we did this Thursday night, one of the things I didn't see in the budget, and I talked to Larry Bud about it today, and he still has to review it, and I think it goes, how many times you guys gonna review this, Larry? There'll be one time,
One
that's
time,
it?
then we'll forward it to the treasurer for refinement.
All right, so one of the things that was left out was, normally what we do is everybody does that, they take last year's budget and they put it over here on another sheet, Jackie does that, and there's the lines in there, and then you can see what was budgeted for last year and how much was spent, et cetera. But what we left out was dredging the lake. We didn't put that in this year's budget because it wasn't in last year's, and so I want to put that in there, and I told Larry, just put $10,000 in there on the revenue side and on the expenditure side.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Water and environmental.
Thank you,
Alderman
Mr. Mayor.
Burrow.
Let everybody know that water environmental, the expenses that come out of the water committee does not affect the general fund. So we're getting a big conversation about money tonight, everybody. If they don't know that, you should know that. First motion was recommended the city council direct the mayor to sign Plucker change order number 5 in the amount of $20,630.40. I'll make that form a motion.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Bertle, second by Alderman Bryant. Questions or comments? Roll call.
Sean Burdell.
Yes.
Bernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Kathy Driscoll.
Yes.
Lee Landzadi.
Yes.
Jim Olive.
Yes.
Skoltedi.
Yes.
Amy Bryant.
Yes.
Larry Bud.
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0.
Next motion was to recommend to the city council to pay Benton Associates $7,624.41 for the work performed related to construction of a new water treatment plant from December 22nd, 2019 to February 29th of 2020. I'll make that for you.
Motion by Alderman Bertle, second by Alderman Driscoll. Comments or questions? Roll call.
Bernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Kathy Driscoll.
Yes.
Lee Landzadi.
Yes.
Jim Olive.
Yes.
Skoltedi.
Yes.
Megan Bryant.
Yes.
Larry Bud.
Yes.
Sean Burdell.
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0.
Next motion was recommended the city council to pay Dickinson Hussman in the amount of $600 performed related to the construction of new water treatment plant from January 1 of 2020 through January 31st of 2020. I'll make that formal motion.
Motion by Alderman Bertle.
Second.
Second by Alderman Skoltedi. Questions or comments? Roll call.
Kathy Driscoll.
Yes.
Lee Landzadi.
Yes.
Jim Olive.
Yes.
Chris Skoltedi. Megan Bryant.
Yes.
Larry Bud.
Yes.
Sean Burdell.
Yes.
Bernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0.
Next motion was recommended the city council to direct the city attorney to draft an ordinance in which the city will install a 6-inch main outside of the city limits to allow residents in the Lakewood subdivision to connect to city water, with all the costs being borne by the property owners accessing the water service. I'll make that formal motion.
Motion by Alderman Bertle, second by Alderman Driscoll. Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Last motion was to recommend to the city council to forward water superintendent salary adjustment to the personnel committee. I'll make that formal motion.
Motion by Alderman Bertle, second by Alderman Olive. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Motion to approve and or ratify payment of bills. Motion by Alderman Bud, second by Alderman Skoltedi. Comment, Alderman Bud.
Bills total $155,825.32. Electric, $10,857.24. Fuel, $10,750.58. Garbage, $3,085. Computer tech, $5,476.24. Big R, Taylorville Feed, H, Bronze and Urban, $1,700.43. Napa and O'Reilly's, $1,811.79. Neil Tire, $1,541.39. Meyer Austin Romano, $8,431.50. City of Taylorville Perpetual Care, 15% lot sales, $4,674. City Directory, $1,128. U.S. Bank, $10,758.14. Police Department, Watchguard Video, body cams, $13,639. LETAC MTU number 10 annual membership, $1,440. Water Department, Benton and Associates, $7,624.41. Merritt Industries for pressure transmitter, $2,349.36. PS Printing for invoice, paper and envelopes, $3,030.97. Chemicals, $11,255.25. Fire Department, Max Fire and Safety for turnout gear, $10,260. Street Department, Ron Emerson for snowplow bracket, $1,800. K.H. Broughton for pre-mix and cold mix, $4,667.95. Airport, Aero Energy, $28,699.07, and these total $144,980.32.
Roll call.
Lee Landzadi.
Yes.
Jim Olive.
Yes.
Chris Popetti.
Yes.
Megan Bryan.
Yes.
Larry Bud.
Yes.
Sean Burdell.
He's using the restroom.
Ernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Kathy Driscoll.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Before you start to read that, Larry, I'd like you to say snow plow brackets. Snow plow brackets, say snow plow brackets.
Snow plow practice.
First subparagraph G of 5 ILCS 120/2.06. This portion of the city council meeting is reserved for any person wishing to address the council on any relevant subject matters concerning the city. The Illinois Open Meeting Act 5 ILCS 120/1 mandates no action shall be taken on subject matters not listed on the agenda, but the council may direct staff to address the topic or refer the subject matter to a future council and/or committee meeting. If anyone wishes to address the council, please provide your name and address, limit your comments or presentation to 3 minutes, and avoid repetitious comments. Anyone out in the audience like to address the council? Sir, state your name.
Ben Morrison,
All right.
651 South Webster Street. I know it's been a long night tonight. The reason I'm here is I saw in the paper that, that we had some issues with some buildings, particularly 204, West Main Cross, or East Main Cross, I'm sorry. But some of you may know that I've had some issues with some buildings in my neighborhood, down near the park. I've let some of you, I've told some people about this. These are dangerous buildings. I'm talking, and a couple of the people were in attendance tonight. That whether they own the building, their names were tied to the buildings, they were in attendance tonight. I researched these concerns in the ordinance book that I have. They fall under dangerous buildings, and I may be beating a dead horse here. But the roof on the building down near the ice house, near the railroad tracks. I believe that Mr. Parker was or is tied to that building as well.
That, and if I may, that building, and I don't know how this happened or if it did happen. Supposedly Parker claims he owns the building, but it is on railroad property. Well, the railroad has told us with numerous times that they are in the process of tearing that building down. I assume that's why he bought these 3 buildings on East Main. If you're talking about with that wooden shed,
Yeah.
I believe, and I think you've heard the same thing at other meetings, the railroad is in the process of tearing that down.
I just didn't know if he had a long-term lease and now he's got another property that you guys are involved with and throwing money, or gonna have to put money towards.
I will talk with the railroad tomorrow or the next day to see what their plans are, but I was told, I think 3 or 4 months ago, that they planned on tearing that building down.
Okay, and my other issue is the ice house. I understand that it possibly has changed hands. I've had 2 calls in the last 2 weeks, and Mr. Chief Aderman is aware of one of these calls, with them burning inside of that structure. I believe there's no roof on part of that structure. I feel like if we have a means of getting into these buildings, which I believe we do through this ordinance book, whether it's HBO able to get in, or whether it's the fire chief, or whether it's the mayor, I feel like when these buildings are changing hands, with whatever they're gonna do, we need to address these buildings.
By changing hands, you mean ownership? Or
Whether it's, yeah, I think
or
Kirby just
rent.
sold that building to somebody down by the old Ice House.
Well, I will direct all, or HBO officer Goodall to find out who does own that building. As everyone knows on the council and some of the public, I have this cleanup committee
Mhm.
that I've formed, and we have some money in that account. And I think that this would be a good use if I can, I don't know if our fire chief or Goodall or myself can honestly condemn a building without structural engineer.
I wouldn't
But-
ask for them, just to be able to get in and see them, and whether they're inspected or just to see before a firefighter would have to go in there and respond to a
I've been
fire.
told they were burning something. Was that from you, Mr. Aderman, or?
They did it twice. The first time was at night, the guys went there, he's burning inside, they put the fire out. Guy's name and phone number, the next day they gave it to me, the name was a false name, phone number wasn't a real phone number. I went to the building 3 or 4 times, banging on doors, nobody was ever there. The second time they went, I told the guys, they go there again, take the police, write an ordinance ticket, whatever. The second time they went there, they took the police with them, and I don't know if an ordinance ticket was wrote by the police or not.
There's no roof on this building, and I can see the flames going up the side of the building. Whether he's burning in a burn barrel inside, it's inside the structure. And I feel like, you know, if you guys are gonna have to respond to a fire, you need to know what you're getting into, instead of having a building that nobody's went in for years. Whether it be 50, 60 years, nobody's went into this building and seen what it's like on the inside. The windows are boarded up. I just have an issue
I
with
may
it.
ask the city attorney, can we have a legal right to go in that building? And who would have that right?
Either HBO and the fire chief probably, under the fire code section probably.
As you know, the other day, the building at 204 East Main, our fire department, broke the door in to let us in. Is that something we can do?
Well, we did that with the consent of the owner.
Right.
We don't know who owns this yet. But maybe the HBO can call Mr. Kirby tomorrow and find out who he sold it to. And get the information there, or make contact that person.
Ma'am?
Andy?
Carol Inslee, I'm next door to the ice house, the beautiful ice house. In 2014, the roof fell in, and it fell on our property. I think probably I've reiterated that you all know that story. Bernie Kirby owned the building, and his insurance did pay for damage to one of our automobiles, which then was destroyed, but that's besides the point. At that time, when I was up here, Bernie was instructed to get a structural engineer to go in and look at the building. And to my knowledge, it's never happened. And now, tonight, I personally went over there and asked him, I heard you sold the building. Well, yeah, I did. It's on contract for deed. But he told me that nobody could live in there because the insurance wouldn't insure him, and he had to, years ago, whenever they stopped having apartments up there, that the insurance, that's why he closed the apartment business in that building. But now the door, as you can drive by and see that door's been knocked in again, it's just a mess, like he said, the windows all boarded up, and it's just an eyesore. And another brick fell from 3rd story down and landed. If I'd been walking by, it would have hit me in the head. And I know they said, oh, the building's going to fall down, hurt somebody downtown. Well, it's going to fall down, hurt somebody there too, because it's just unsafe. It's the tuck pointing's gone and the bricks are loose.
Well, as was mentioned earlier, we do have an ordinance about an unsafe building.
We do.
So we can write him an ordinance violation.
Yes.
So I will direct HPO Officer Goodall to first try to find out who the owner is, write him an ordinance violation and put sort of in his pocket to see what he's going to do. We can keep increasing the fine per day and see, and then if he would allow us access, we will get a structural engineer down there and see if we can't get it condemned.
Doesn't that go against everything we just did with Parker? We didn't write him an ordinance violation, we just went and paid him.
I didn't know it was dangerous, his building. I really didn't, and I've been in it, I couldn't tell if it was dangerous or not. The problem, the roof was gone 6 months ago. The problem that happened the other day is the second floor caved in.
Right.
And 3 months ago, I was on that second floor, so at that time it was holding me.
All right.
So,
The contract for D, it doesn't go to the new owner until it's paid off.
right.
So Bernie still is responsible for that until it is paid and the deed is transferred.
So that's easy.
Is that correct, Rocci?
I'll find out. And that building has been in an unsafe condition for, as long as you live there.
He's probably the
I've been there
record
20
title.
years. It's probably been unsafe at least 15 of those 20 years, if not longer. And, Mrs. Inslee, she's had a car crash, she's had, I don't know how many bricks and pieces of building fall on her property over the years numerous times.
We've heard this before also.
Yeah, I mean, before you were there, it's been going on for
Right.
eons.
Right. Well, we will try to take action within 2 weeks.
I just don't want anybody to get hurt,
I don't.
including myself
I
walking down.
agree. I don't want you to get hurt, I don't want
Or
Ben,
me.
and I don't want Ben's lovely wife. Now, Rocky, you can camp out there. So, okay. Anyone else got any questions or concerns for the city council? Sean?
Oh, Mr. Siegel handed out a press release to everybody on the press release, COV ID 19. That's just, there's kind of a somewhat of a moratorium from the governor's office about waiving or maybe withholding penalties and late fees on utilities. This is the way that Superintendent Siegel and Kelly decided they would handle it. If you have any concerns, questions, comments, please address it, Mr. Siegel.
Nothing.
I don't think we'll be able to shut people's water off while we're on this. Correct?
That's what they're saying. I don't know if it's definitely, they haven't made it mandatory yet, have they?
We charge for prison.
No, we're scared of that.
All right, motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Martin, second by Ms. Driscoll, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?